Hello everyone, today is 19th of September, now it's about 9 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and the Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second update will be published on my Patreon and Boosty pages later on today towards the evening with all the additional main news that Russian media will report about during the day. And if you are not subscribed to my Patreon or Boosty pages, please consider to do so. That will be great support for this project and my work. Links on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's talk about news now. Although I want to mention, dear friends, that I see recommendations from our community to translate these pages that are from Russian media, but in Russian language. And I tried several times before to find a program that will allows me to translate these pages so that it will be in English. And if you want to, you can read simultaneously as you're listening to a video or watching. But unfortunately, I was unable to find a program that will operate. I will continue to, work on this issue. Maybe for tomorrow I will manage to do something about it. I've been told that Chrome browser has a additional app that gives you opportunity to choose language in which you want to read page. I will check that out today, and hope if it will work, then of course I will use a Chrome browser from now on, because until now I was using Yandex browser, Russian browser, which allows me to translate in Russian pages from any other language, but unfortunately don't gives me opportunity to choose the language that I want to read the news. I guess all the browsers automatically are giving you opportunity to translate page in a language of the country that you are living in. I am in Russian, so in Russia, so a browser Yandex is proposing to translate every page I open in foreign language into Russian. So I want to mention this, dear friends, because I hear your concerns, I hear your recommendations, and I'm working on that. That being said, let's talk about news now. And well, we have this report from TASS news agency that according to Russian militaries, Kiev regime forces are basically running away from Grodovka settlement on Pokrovsk sector of the front line. And well, let me show you Grodovka itself. This is the town, by the way, which is according to some previous reports were under full Russian control, but lately information was corrected, and this settlement, relatively large settlement, is disputed between the sides right now. Significant part of it is under Russian control, and according to latest reports, as I said, the Kiev regime's formations are unable to withstand increased pressure from the Russian troops and are fleeing this city, basically running away in chaotic manner. If true, then most likely in next 24 to 48 hours we will receive information about liberation of Grodovka by Russian armed forces from Western occupying regime in Kiev. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Abdi Alaudinov, Major General Abdi Alaudinov, head of Ahmad Special Forces and high-ranking officer, of course, of Russian Defense Ministry, stated that Russian armed forces liberated Nikolaeva Darina and Darina settlements in Suja district of the Kursk salient. As you know, recently Russian armed forces began active phase of this counter-terrorist operation in the Kursk salient area, and at this point about 24 of settlements have been liberated by Russian troops. This is their area, by the way, we are talking about Nikolaeva Darina and Darina settlements right next to each other. So according to up till Odino, these settlements, and their surrounding areas are under full Russian control now, and the Kiev regime's forces, invading forces, have been neutralized in this direction. And while map is open, let me also notice that all the attempts of Kiev regime to slow down Russian counteroffensive or Russian counter-terrorist operation is failing miserably, and despite the attempt to conduct a separate invasion into Russian Federation in direction of Obukhovka, in direction of Venezuela, in direction of Glushkovo, basically failed. There are plenty of videos on different Telegram channels, for example, with dozens, which shows destruction of a significant number of armored groups of Kiev regime. Time to time, I also share those videos on my Telegram channel, but well, because quite often these videos are extremely graphic, I cannot share those videos. But it is obvious, by the way, that this Kursk salient has become a mass grave for Kiev regimes and NATO's invading forces. They have thousands and thousands and thousands of casualties in this area, and significant number of brigades, Kiev regime's brigades from basically last strategical reserves, have been neutralized. According to the Defense Ministry of the Russian Federation, Kiev regime already lost in Kursk salient area as a killed and wounded around 14,000 military personnel, and there are significantly more than 1,000 pieces of different type of equipment. That being said, we also have this report from Vzгляд newspaper, according to which in the Kursk salient area in Kursk region, Russian armed forces destroyed first Leopard, German-made Leopard tank. Earlier, there was reports that a British Challenger 2 tank was destroyed, a number of other Western military equipment, plenty of Western military equipment, hundreds of them. Strikers, Bradleys, Challenger 2s were destroyed. Also, Max Pros and other armored carriers. And we are receiving now first reports about destruction of German Leopard tanks also in this direction, which clearly indicates that out of desperation, Kiev regime is throwing into Kursk salient more and more troops from whenever or from wherever, how should I say it, from any place that they can remove those troops. They want to maintain their presence in the Kursk salient, seems like, at least before end of September, because from 24th, I believe, September until end of the month, there will be General Assembly in UN, and Zelensky and his Western associates, Western masters, basically, are planning to present this Zelensky's peace formula or some peace ideas about ending the hostility, and Zelensky and his Western master seems like wants to, or they think that they can have a leverage if they will maintain presence in the Kursk region, no matter how many casualties Kiev regime's forces will suffer. That may be one of the reasons why Kiev regime has not yet ordered withdrawal of its troops from Kursk salient area. And also, dear friends, as I reported earlier, reports are that Washington, London, Paris, maybe some other capitals will make simultaneous or combined announcement during this General Assembly in UN in New York about authorizing Kiev regime for long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory, although Moscow, as you know, was very clear on this topic. Russian president said it as it is, that Kiev regime in no circumstances will be able to utilize these long-range missiles that NATO member states are delivering formally to Kiev's armed forces, and therefore, if long-range strikes will occur deep inside Russian territory, Moscow will see it as a direct, open aggression of the NATO against Russia, because it is obvious that only NATO military personnel, to be more precise, US military personnel, has enough satellite navigation potential, enough satellite intelligence to basically direct those missiles towards the targets, right? Even UK, by the way, that is operating with the Storm Shadow missiles, even UK is unable to conduct a long-range or precise strikes with its Storm Shadow missiles without US support. Because yes, British militaries can launch Storm Shadows, obviously, but without precise intelligence information from US and the flight path that will be provided by US, most likely those Storm Shadows will be jammed by Russian radio electronic warfare systems and relatively easily intercepted. Even Western media outlets are reporting about dependence of the European NATO member states on US when it comes to long-range precise strikes. But so if that's the case, then of course there is not even much point to talk about absence of such capabilities in Kiev's hands, right? So let's see what is going to happen in that General Assembly. I hope adequate people will prevail among Western ruling elites, if there are any adequate people there, and there will be no announcements about long-range strikes deep inside Russian territory, because that will be, of course, whole next level of escalation between NATO and Russia. Anyways, let's continue with some more news. And also Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that Kiev regime deployed their special forces of National Guard in Volchansk city on the northern part of Kharkov region, where Russian armed forces are creating this buffer zone, and Russian military intelligence find out about movement of these special units, and as a result of strikes, airstrikes, 3 FAB 1500s were basically dropped on the point of concentration or deployment of these special forces, and they were obliterated basically. That Spetsnaz of the Kiev regime was literally obliterated by this strike in Volchansk. No precise information about number of casualties that Kiev regime special forces suffered during this strike, but if you imagine like 3 FAB 1500s exploding in simultaneously, of course, that casualty numbers probably are high. I guess that special forces unit was neutralized. RIA Novosti is also reporting that residents of the Toropets town in the Tver region were allowed to go back to their homes, and already yesterday, late afternoon, dear friends, and Toropets city become in our headlines because earlier at the night time, Kiev regime conducted the strikes on munition depot, as I understand, in the Tver region, not far away from the Toropets town, and unfortunately air defense systems were unable to totally neutralize drones. According to reports, it was a drone attack, and about 10 to 15 drones were used by Kiev regime to target this munition depot. But whatever the case, unfortunately, at least some of those Kiev regime's weapon systems, long-range weapon systems, managed to strike this munition depot. There was a huge explosion. Plenty of videos are circulating on internet with claims that this is exactly this munition depot. I did not share those videos on my Telegram because the Russian Defense Ministry did not confirm this information, and I did not see confirmations on independent channels. on Russian segment of internet. So therefore, I did not share videos, but if it's true, probably many of you see those videos. If it's true, then it is becoming obvious that that munition depot was almost, significantly destroyed, if not entirely. There was a huge explosions in the video, at least that I see here. So much so that some people start mistaking those explosions for nuclear explosions, for explosions of the nuclear warhead. And one of the members of our community even commented on my Telegram that I did not mention these munition strikes, nuclear explosions in this munition depot. Of course, I did not mention because there was no nuclear explosions, by the way. So how could I talk about something that never happened, right? Although in yesterday's first update and also in second update, by the way, on Patreon and Boosty, I spoke about this strike on munition depot. And initially, obviously, civilians were evacuated from Toropets town, but later on, towards late afternoon, local authorities made decision that it was safe enough for locals to go back to their homes. Unfortunate incident, of course, significant volume of munition was destroyed as a result of this strike of the Kyiv regime and the NATO, by the way. Once again, guidance for those drones or whatever was used for the strikes was provided by NATO countries, obviously. Unfortunate incident, but this is a high intensity military conflict. This is basically proxy war that NATO is waging against Russia. So such incidents may occur. So yes, there was no nuclear explosion. If any members of our community still thinks, or maybe new members of our community that just find out about this channel are still think that there in that munition depot there was a storage facility for nuclear warheads also. Well, let me tell you that this is not correct. Maybe Kyiv regime's propaganda shared such information, maybe Western propaganda shared such information, but in reality there was no nuclear warheads in that area, and there was no nuclear explosions, thanks God. Otherwise, by the way, you can imagine the level of destruction, and of course local authorities will not recommend to the locals to go back to their homes, because there would be nothing left from this town, Toropets, if there was a nuclear explosion, right? So, I mean, we are living in very strange times, by the way, and very, very strange informations are gaining momentum time to time, including such informations like some nuclear explosions had happened in the region. This is nonsense, by the way. So yes, locals are going back to their homes, and of course, if any apartments or any infrastructure was damaged by shrapnels as a result of explosions of that munition depot that is located not far away from that town, of course, all the renovation work will be done by the state. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Kremlin reacted on the recent statements of the Jens Stoltenberg, head of NATO, that is about to leave this position and become a new head of Munich Security Conference. Well, press spokesman of the Russian President Dmitry Peskov stated that her attitude of the Stoltenberg about Russian warnings on the topic of long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory, and I guess he meant not just Stoltenberg but also all the high-ranking officials in the West that are basically saying that Russia is bluffing. This is my interpretation, but it seems like that's their attitude. They don't take Russian warnings seriously because they think Russia is bluffing and will not use extreme force in retaliation if NATO will start direct strikes on Russian territory. So Peskov said this approach is extremely dangerous. It's not serious and also extremely dangerous. And the Western ruling elites, Western ruling class should listen, should learn how to listen to others, and how to understand warnings that they are receiving. And this statement on its own is a warning of the Kremlin, yet another one. But I mean, as I said, dear friends, someone has to be adult in the room on this geopolitical chessboard, and this burden of being adult is absolutely on the shoulders of the Russia, right? Because we all see how irresponsible Western ruling elites are behaving. And we are talking about a confrontation between NATO and their nuclear superpower, isn't it? So, of course, many people worldwide, I will say majority, are even thankful to Russian leadership for this cautious approach when it comes to reactions or retaliatory steps, when it comes to this constant escalation from the Western ruling class. But yet again, Moscow is issuing warning, and if Western ruling elites are capable to listen, they should, until it's not too late. RT is also reporting that Zelensky cancels meeting with the Latin American leaders, according to media reports. So the Ukrainian government has canceled the planned meeting between Vladimir Zelensky and Latin American leaders out of fear it would become a PR disaster. Brazilian newspaper Folha de S. Paulo reported on Tuesday. Very few leaders had confirmed that they would attend the event, the paper wrote. Kyiv initially planned to hold their talks on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, scheduled to convene on September 24. According to Folha, this Brazilian media outlet, the idea behind the meeting was to demonstrate symbolic support for Kyiv's cause in its conflict with Moscow. Ukrainian officials reportedly said it would be an appropriate platform for Zelensky to present what they called relevant and reliable information about the conflict. Kyiv also wanted to rally support for the so-called Zelensky's peace formula, a set of demands put forward by Ukraine as a preconditions for potential peace talks. Moscow rejected the demands, calling them unacceptable. Kyiv had to scrap its plans up about this meeting with the leaders of the Latin America after it received only few confirmations of attendance. Folha reported, adding that the Ukrainian government decided it was necessary to avoid a situation that could possibly be interpreted as a lack of support. The paper did not provide the number of confirmations or names or name the leaders who said they would attend, except for Guatemalan President Bernardo Arevalo. Okay, I guess Milei will also attend the Argentinian president, because seems like he wants to be top Russophobe in Latin America. He wants to please his Western masters as much as he can. So I guess he would attend this meeting with Zelensky, maybe a few other puppets of the Washington in Latin American countries, and that's it really. Brazil would not be there, and many more other countries. Brazil, Mexico, Venezuela, many others, by the way, and Bolivia, Nicaragua. So therefore, of course, it would be a PR disaster for Zelensky if they will go ahead with this so-called conference or summit or whatever. Once again, this information demonstrates, dear friends, that Russia is definitely not alone. And the vast majority of the humanity stands with Russia, because people know perfectly well Russia is on the right side of history. And Western ruling class is an evil force that poses the danger for all of humanity. People know this, even in the West, by the way. Even in the collective West, more and more people are waking up and realizing that their own so-called elites are posing the threat to everybody, all humans, including citizens of the Western states. I mean, it is what it is, isn't it? It's just factual. Kommersant newspaper is reporting, and I spoke about this news in my yesterday's second update, also on the Patreon and Boosty, that Estonia and Finland want to come up with some mechanism to block Russian Navy in the Baltic Sea, to basically not allow Russia to use Baltic Sea. Okay, I mean, obviously something is wrong with the military and political leadership of Estonia and Finland if they think they can block a Russian Navy from Baltics. But I want to share with you this information just to highlight with whom we are dealing, dear friends. I mean, this is the level of the elites in these countries, and Estonia and Finland are no exception. A majority of the collective West countries are run by people like that have such a sick fantasies. And only way NATO, I mean, Estonia and Finland had no even slight chance to block anything really. But NATO, both countries are NATO member states, and well, NATO can theoretically try and block Baltic Sea for a Russian Navy, although that would be, of course, Third World War. That would be full-scale war between Russia and NATO in that case. And as many experts will say, and the Russian high-ranking officials also were quite open on that, if Western ruling class will provoke a direct full-scale confrontation between Russia and NATO, well, that would be the end of everything. So no one would neither no one would be left to basically use Baltic Sea or any other sea, right, for navigation. But I mean, tell this to people that are in charge of Estonia and Finland, but do they understand what they are talking about? I don't think so. And dear friends, before I continue, let me notice, if I may, that this small media project of mine with several channels on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram, and from next week I'm definitely gonna become more active on X also, on formerly Twitter, and I will share all or majority of the news that I share on my Telegram channel on Twitter also. Yes, if you know, this project of mine, by the way, I lost thought process. So yes, this project is completely subscriber funded, dear friends. If you want to have a truly independent source of news from Russia, then I mean, I have several channels here, right? And this project, as I said, completely subscriber funded, and I will be immensely grateful if you will consider to support my work and my project with a donation through PayPal or Boosty platform, or by subscribing to my Patreon page or page on Boosty, on which I have extra content on regular basis. Nowadays, second updates are on the Patreon and Boosty, and this is yesterday's second update, by the way. I published it relatively late from it was Pakrovska Square area. It was nice, by the way. It looks beautiful there, and the update was packed with important news, in my opinion. Hopefully communities on Patreon and Boosty will like it, will find it interesting. So yes, all the links, dear friends, to PayPal, Boosty, Patreon under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And many thanks to all the members of our community who supported and continues to support my work and allows me to stay in this field of news and political commentary. Thank you very much. And let's continue now. And RIA Novosti is reporting that yesterday, late afternoon, news broke that there was a second wave of explosions of radio communication equipment in Lebanon. And immediately rumors started that not just radio communication equipment were detonating, exploding, but also some other equipments, also some other gadgets, and not just gadgets, even bikes, by the way. Even bikes were exploding, according to these rumors that are start circulating immediately almost when news broke out. And I tried to check the information, and as far as I understand, this second wave of explosions were also connected with radio communication devices. Hundreds of people were wounded once again, and Lebanon, as after first wave of these explosions, stated that responsibility lies on Israeli secret services. And at this point, probably no one doubts that it is Israeli secret services that are behind these explosions. Thousands of people, more than 4,000 people overall were wounded as a result of these explosions, and at least 11 killed. Unfortunately, according to latest reports that I see, among killed, there are 2 children. And for a reason, many experts worldwide are calling this action of the Israeli secret services unprecedented terrorist attack committed by state, because it is impossible to make sure when you are doing such a operation that civilians would not be harmed. But I guess secret services of Israel didn't really care about any civilian casualties. But yes, that's what is happening. Questions are rising, by the way. Questions are rising. How this even possible? There is as I spoke previously on this topic, many media outlets are reporting that Israel somehow managed to intercept these radio communication devices and plant some small amount of explosives inside and detonate remotely. Although I'm not convinced about it. Maybe Israeli secret services really have programs, spyware, that can infiltrate, break into these devices and cause overheating of their batteries and consequent explosions. And if that's the case, then well, dear friends, I guess no gadget is safe. If this is the case. More information is needed for sure, but unfortunately, what is obvious is the next level of escalation in the Middle East. Hezbollah is promising harsh retaliation for these attacks, and Israel is also threatening Hezbollah and Lebanon. Although when it comes to these explosions, by the way, White House denies any involvement of U.S. in these explosions, in this operation of the Israeli secret services. This was stated by official representative of the White House, John Kirby. And when it comes to Israeli threats, by the way, we have this report that IDF, Israeli military leadership, excuse me, Israeli military leadership declares a new phase of war after Hezbollah pager attacks. So Israel is shifting its military strength north to focus on Hezbollah, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said on Wednesday, after thousands of pagers and radios belonging to Lebanese paramilitary group were detonated in an apparent Israeli operation. So, and there are videos, by the way, and reports on internet that IDF is deploying its heavy military equipment towards northern regions of Israel, maybe to gather enough forces for incursion into southern Lebanon. That's possibility, and therefore even US, by the way, is preparing, according to reports, already prepared the plan to evacuate, to conduct emergency evacuation of the US citizens from Lebanon. And well, situation is very, very difficult, very dangerous, and unfortunately seems like, at least for now, it seems like further increase of tensions between Israel and Lebanon, or Lebanese Hezbollah, is inevitable. And if full-scale war will break out between Israel and Hezbollah, I guess even that would not be the end of this escalation. We will see next level when Western ruling class will try to provoke conflict with Iran also. Because, as I said many times, dear friends, Western ruling class don't care about Israel, don't care about Lebanon, about any country in the Middle East. Right now, their main goal is to provoke regional war in the Middle East and distract shipping or navigation into Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait, and by doing so cut China from Middle Eastern energy sources. That's the main goal of Western ruling class at this stage of this geopolitical operation that Western ruling elites are conducting. And the proxy war against Russia and Ukraine is part of it, by the way. It's not some separate story. It's a part of this big geopolitical strategy that Western ruling class is conducting to somehow maintain dominance over the world. Let's continue with some other news. And RT is reporting that Saudi Arabia names the conditions for doing business with Israel. There can be no normalization of their relations between Riyadh and West Jerusalem without their establishment of an independent Palestinian state. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has announced. So of course, there were rumors that Saudi Arabia and Israel were very close to achieve significant progress in relationships before October 7 terrorist attack of Hamas on Israel, and then relationships between Saudi Arabia and Israel deteriorated significantly, especially after extreme response of IDF and the unimaginable level of casualties among civilians in the Gaza Strip as a result of Israeli military operation. Because after all, every country in the Middle East is under heavy pressure from their own. Every leadership, every government in Middle Eastern countries are under heavy pressure from their own citizens, isn't it? Due to this situation in between Israel and Palestine. And therefore, not surprisingly, of course, relationships between Israel and Saudi Arabia deteriorated, and we are receiving now these statements from Saudi leadership that there can be no normalization of the relationships with Israel before independent Palestinian state will be established. Unfortunately, region is under threat of this Middle East is under threat of regional war. So therefore, unfortunately, the peace is not even on a horizon at this point, and and normalization of the relationships between a number of regional countries, which is unfortunate, by the way, which is great tragedy, of course. RT is reporting that Venezuela seeks arrest warrant for Milei, Argentinian president. So Caracas has opened a criminal investigation of Argentine President Javier Milei over their handing over of seized Venezuelan cargo plane to the US. The dispute between the two South American countries stems from their fate of their Amtrak or Boeing 747-300 FM, which was initially purchased from Iran's Mahan Air in August 2022. The Argentinian authorities seized their aircraft at the request of US, and Washington had previously blacklisted the Iranian Mahan Air as a part of export restrictions placed on Iran. Venezuela has long protested their detention of the aircraft, arguing that Argentina violated international law and has demanded compensation. In March 2024, Caracas even closed airspace to flight to and from Argentina. And now, because this plane was given, Argentina transferred to US, Venezuela seeks arrest warrant for Milei, and I guess there are some other reasons also. Just recently, Milei, Argentina's government, demanded arrest warrant to be issued against Maduro by ICC, this so-called International Criminal Court, isn't it? So, relationships between these Latin American countries are on a probably lowest level ever. And yet again, improvement of the relationships between these two is not even on the horizon, it seems like, for now. TASS News Agency is reporting that, you might be surprised, by the way, to hear this news. I have to translate this one. To be more precise, so Russia reduced its investment into US government bonds to $24 million in July 2024, according to documents from the US Treasury Department. This is the lowest figure recorded in the department's database, which provides information from the beginning of the 2020 to July of this year. And probably you are as surprised as I was when I see this news that Russia still invests in US bonds. I mean, really? Even a cent? I can understand that $24 million is not a huge volume of money when it comes to investments into US bonds that Russia had previously. Let's say 5, 10, 15 years ago. But what the hell is going on, by the way? Why Russia is still investing in US bonds? I just don't get it. And right now, Russia, let's translate this also. Of course, overall volume of Russian investments are decreasing, but this is what the hell. So Russia began sharply reduce its investments in US government debt in the spring of 2018. In April, their level fell from 96 billion to 48.7 billion, and in May to 14.9 billion. So right now, Russian investments in US bonds are about, I don't know, I guess no more than 14 billion, 14, 15 billion. But still, question is rising. Why? Are these assets not frozen by US? I don't know. I don't know, but if it was up to me, I will never ever invest even single penny into US bonds, by the way, especially after what Russia has experienced from their Western ruling class and the Western financial and the banking system. So very strange information. I will watch for some additional news on this matter, because I'm interested how come that some Russian assets are frozen but some are not, and Russia is still investing in US bonds, even if it's just small amount of money compared to previous era. And as I said, currently, according to latest reports, in July, Russia invested some 24 million only into bonds. But still, I mean, why? Why and how this is even possible? TASS news agency is reporting that, well, India and Russia are close to finalize their talks about signing up an new agreement on investments between their countries. And well, this was reported by Hindustan Times, and good news. Hopefully, agreement will be reached in relatively short time, and both countries will provide additional guarantees for investments of each other into economy. And of course, in that case, more incentives will be created for businesses in Russia and India to further cooperate, to increase further cooperation, and to also invest and get involved in the markets of each other. So some good developments are happening between Russia and India, which is always great, obviously. I want to share with you this information also, and I will end this first update on that Russia ready to use cryptocurrencies in foreign trade, according to Vedomosti media outlets. So Russia's financial authorities are reportedly moving towards adopting cryptocurrency for international trade. The Vedomosti Business Daily has reported, citing sources, a focus group comprising selected importers and their banks has been established to pilot international trader settlements using digital currencies. According to outlet, the group reportedly consists of members of the Russian Chamber of Commerce and their Association of Electronics Developers and Manufacturers, as well as several lenders. The selected companies and their institutions have been facing challenges with their conducting cross-border settlements while paying for dual-use goods. Such products could theoretically be used for both civilian and military purposes and are subject to international restrictions, or Western restrictions, basically. Earlier this year, the Russian government passed legislation allowing the Bank of Russia to authorize selected companies to use digital currency for international payments in trade. The measure came into force on September 1st. The central bank is planning to attract more participants to their experiment later. An unnamed source told the news outlet, adding that the timing for the expansion of the project is currently unclear. So yes, one of the ways how Russian businesses and businesses worldwide can continue trade between each other, can do business, is cryptocurrencies, really. To use cryptocurrencies for goods and services. And well, this is a good idea. This is a good idea, it seems to me, and I would not be surprised at all, dear friends, if BRICS will come up with during the process of creation of this alternative banking and their financial system, alternative to their extremely weaponized Western one. I would not be surprised at all if BRICS will pay huge attention to cryptocurrencies also, like Russia does, because, well, that might be way forward. I don't know, I'm not an expert in this field, but That may be way forward. Although, and maybe even BRICS cryptocurrency will become reserve currency of the world. Who knows? Theoretically, anything is possible. Although, of course, I understand that China is a major economy among BRICS countries, and probably Chinese yuan will take a #1 role in a trade between BRICS member states, and eventually, I guess, if BRICS will not come up with some new currency as a reserve currency or trade currency for the BRICS member states, which will automatically become the world reserve currency. In that case, if BRICS will not create a new currency, then yuan most likely will take that place. But who knows? Maybe we will see emergence of some BRICS crypto. Who knows? It may be called like that, BRICS, you know. It is possibility, and I will end this update on this news. By the way, positive news, because of course it is good that new opportunities are created for businesses worldwide to continue cooperation without being afraid of some illegal sanctions of the Western ruling class. So. Well, quite a long update, really quite a long update, but hopefully you will find it informative, interesting, and useful. And if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary just about anything, and share a video with your friends in real life or on internet, on any of the platforms that you are actively using, you are active on. And finally, if you like my work, if you want to support, you can do it. All the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.